Hey, hi everyone. I am Shivani Roy, and I've been with LeadSquared for a while, and I work for the marketing team here. So we have a very exciting roundtable up for you today. It's about EdTech marketing. So as a marketer, this is one of my personal favorites, and I'm really excited to learn from our speakers here today. So let me quickly get started on the speaker lineup, and then we have Pranay who will take over from there. I'll get to Pranay in a bit. But first, let me introduce our speakers. We have Mr. Raj Dogra, who is the CIO of upGrad. So, with over 13 years of experience in IT strategy, global project management, and automation, Raj is known for driving productivity and leading high performing teams. So, lots to learn from Raj already. Moving on, our next speaker is Mr. Saikat Kumar Sinha, who is the CEO of KIMO. It is a leading Dutch e-learning platform focused on personalized learning through AI. With nearly a decade of experience in global edtech, Shaikat has successfully scaled international organizations and worked with a few giants, including Baiju's and Vedantu. Moving on to Mr. Ramees Ali, who is the CEO of Interval Learning. So, um, interestingly, he is also a law graduate. So those of you who have any law questions around, he's the go-to person as of now. So Interval Learning is a personalized learning platform providing tailored guidance and individual attention to K-12 students. So he's also been recognized as the Entrepreneur of the Year in 2003 and 2023 and 2024. Finally, last but not the least, Mr. Pranay Kale, who is the VP of Key Accounts at LeadSquared. He is the business head of enterprise business at LeadSquared and has a track record in sales, business development, strategic account management, and business growth across multiple industries. So, with that, I'll hand it over to Pranay to take the session ahead. I will be here in the background. If you all have any questions for us, please put it on chat, and our backend team here will be happy to answer them. Over to you, Clive. Sorry, Pranay.
Thank you so much, Shivani. Wonderful introduction of everyone. Welcome, everyone. We have a fantastic panel around us today. We're here to deep dive into the key strategies that drive success in the edtech sector. They bring a wealth of knowledge and experience. We are excited to hear from them on the insights and the challenges that the opportunities lie ahead of us. Before we start individually, I would like to put this question across to everyone here in the panel today. What do you believe are the top most or are the top three most crucial factors for the success of edtech today? Whoever wants to take the lead in answering this. I mean, I know it's a very generic question, but
Yeah,
times
Raj,
are a lot of
first.
Sorry, Saikat.
Yeah, I mean, I can talk about edtech for maybe hours now, right? That is what I've been doing for the past 10 years. I feel the secret sauce at this point of time, if I talk about any edtech which is looking forward to success, specifically in the Indian market, in the Asian market, one is that, it should be accessible, very accessible to everybody. Because back, if I talk in, let's say, 2013 and 14, when, a B2C segment of if I talk about edtech was not much there, right? We were just kind of typically there into the cliche way of learning through classrooms, right? But right now, even if a person is sitting down in some village, they actually have that access to go ahead and learn from quality teachers, right? So it actually bridges the gap between let's say quality learning to, let's say, space specific or maybe area specific constraints that comes in. That's one. Second is the personalization bit of it, because for me, I'm a person who used to love physics and maths, but then I really did pretty bad in geography and history. So right now, even if I talk about KIMO as well, we give people option to go ahead and learn what they want to, where they feel that there's a lot of loophole, and where they want to kind of where their interest area is, right? And a person might be, let's say, 10 out of 10 in their soft skill, but that person might be like a 1 out of 10, let's say, in tech skills. So they should be given an option to choose what they want to learn, right? Rather than actually giving them a curriculum which is generic for all, and then the output is almost nothing in this point of time. And the third thing is, I feel choosing the right set of people is very important from a company's point of view, right? Because if you go ahead and sell, might be, let's say, ice to somebody who's based out of Antarctica, it will never work, right? So you have to actually understand that what is your niche, whom exactly do you want to go ahead and might be, sell to, or might be go ahead and let's say cater to, and of course, keep your customers happy, keep your consumers happy. I feel if you do that, then any single service that you have in today's time will be successful. So that's pretty much it.
Interesting. So ease of access, the flexibility to learn, be it location or be it, the area of subject that somebody wants to learn. Pretty interesting insights. Raj, Ramesh, would you guys want to add something?
Yeah, sure. Raj, you would like to go or me?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, sure.
I think we're not going to have different answers. These are pretty much the same things which we are seeing.
Exactly.
Because if you look at the crucial factors when it comes to EdTech, it's more about personalizing the needs of individuals. Because gone are the days when one size could fit all. It's all about making sure that you get personalized learning, and second is of course accessibility, scalability. It's important that no matter where the person is, as Saikat mentioned, that whether you're sitting in a city or in a village, but if you're able to access the content, that's more important. So for organizations, scalability and accessibility is crucial. I think the third thing could be the strong pedagogical frameworks, ensuring despite the technological advancements, but ensuring that there's a balance between the content and the teaching methodologies. These are I would say these are the few things which are crucial in the EdTech for the success.
Yeah, exactly. Like as Raj and Saigat said, like we don't have an option to skip personalization part when talking about the success mantra, especially when I'm running or when I'm leading a team who focus on personalized education, right? So when talking about edtechs, I personally feel like personalization plays a very vital role in defining the future path or future growth. So tailoring like every experiences, not only the contents, the experiences, the individual needs, their aspirations. So everything associated with adaptive learning have defined most of the startups. So that's the reason basically I am focusing on a startup which actually serves kids with their personalized approach. So there is no way that I can skip the personalization part because I am running such a kind of facility. So apart from this personalization for any edtechs, not only actually for edtechs, but for any startups, I personally believe that the most crucial factor or for its organization is of course the people. Like, so if someone asks me what is the biggest asset of my startup, I would like to answer it in a way that it is not about the people, but the right people which contributes to the success of my entity. So when defining what is right people, I would say people with right attitude or right mentality or the right skill set. So basically, I would like to tell that invest in your people, and the time, money, or effort you put into them will yield a greater ROI than any other investments. So after personalization and maybe the people as an asset, I would say customer satisfaction is the greatest thing in edtech industry, because there are like a lot of startups who have failed due to not focusing on customer satisfaction. And especially I personally feel like we have customers over different countries, but when talking about customers in India or the edtech people or edtech stakeholders in India are very hard to satisfy or create impact, because education is something they are very tensed about or they really care. So it's very hard to satisfy them. But if you don't keep updating your platform enough to meet the needs and aspirations of each and every customer or each and every student, you will of course fail. So that is something you should be very aware of, customer satisfaction. There are a lot of examples from our own edtech ecosystem in India that have provided examples of failures by not actually focusing on the customer satisfaction. So those are the 3 points which I would like to underline when talking about success of any edtechs.
So very valid and interesting points, Ramesh. That brings me to an interesting question. EdTech has evolved. We have seen this evolution happening very rapidly as well. right? COVID, post-COVID, and especially in the past few months, we have seen it evolving a lot. If I have to bring you to, specific points or areas of, let's say, marketing today, there are certain specific digital marketing strategies that have proven to be most effective when it comes to lead engagement and boosting more conversations with your leads. And so what do you think are these marketing strategies that work well for EdTech today? And how crucial is data analysis, or rather, what type of data is very crucial for this analysis for having a more impact on these marketing campaigns that we run today for EdTech?
So I believe that question is directly to me, right, Pranay?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So regarding this branding and marketing, the first and foremost thing is that there is no single channel that you can completely rely on to scale your business. We have to go through omnichannels. There is no doubt in it. So you should have omnichannels to market, sell, and everything. So apart from the traditional sources or traditional channels we use for marketing, like maybe community building or content marketing, B2B partnerships, then some of them still rely on webinars and stuffs and other performance marketing strategies. Apart from all these kind of things, I would like to suggest, or I would like to ask you to try something called micro influencer partnerships. So basically this is a process of converting each of your stakeholders into marketers. So that is what micro influencers actually deals with. So I know some platforms which provide micro influencer partnerships as services, and I know some edtech founders who are making really great use of such platforms as well. So apart from that, I would like to say that you can do this without even third-party alliances. So India is a country where we have like 50 crore plus people population using smartphones, right? So that is literally India is a country where there are like 50 crore plus micro influencers. So we should make use of that, or we should come up with strategies or ideas where we can make people to speak about our brand. So I have tried this, and I would say that our CAC has reduced 700% due to these strategies. So if you could come up with such strategies, that would be a very massive thing. And to be honest, micro influencer strategies have also helped us to expand our business to 9 other international countries at zero cost. So that is basically making your customers to speak about your brand, or making your customers to speak about the quality of our service. So, but very sorry that I cannot guide each of you with a set of actions where you can do this, because it is very subjective to the kind of product or target customers or target demographics or even the LTV and your current CAC as well. So all these things depends upon how to come up with such strategies. But I suggest you all to think about it and work on it. So that is one thing where you can freshly, or you can try out something very new. And when talking about like this, coming to the second part of the question, that was about data analytics, I believe, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So when talking about data analytics, it is very like every one of us know there are a lot of examples in our ecosystem as well, which provides failures of startups due to less focus on numbers. There are like very big unicorns. I don't want to name them. Just not caring about a single ratio. If some of them have cared about their CAC to LTV ratio, CAC to LTV ratio is basically customer acquisition cost to lifetime value ratio. If they have cared or focused on their CAC to LTV ratio, such instances or such things would not have occurred, right? So by not focusing on a single ratio, they have caused a winter season in the entire funding ecosystem of Indian EdTech startups, right? So that is something very crucial. Having knowledge about our numbers, having knowledge about our current KPIs. We have 600 KPIs in-house our systems. So which about around 300 lies between the sales and around 150 to 200 associated with the customer support. So all these numbers gives us an extra advantage of having decisions based on data rather than intuition. So most of these failures are results of focusing on intuitions rather than data. So of course, data analytics is very crucial. Focusing on ratios are very crucial in growing or scaling our business. That's what I feel.
Very interesting. I think you mentioned about keeping your CAC under control. Seems like you have figured out a formula. That's the theme of everybody, including EdTech today. So kudos to you on that. And yes, correctly mentioned, right? Data in the end, or rather, the way I say it, numbers don't lie. In the end,
Exactly.
all your data is around the numbers, and anybody who has a close watch on these numbers and data usually is able to put their business strategies, SOPs on how to make them successful. Interesting. So, Ramesh, you're someone who has rapidly scaled up a startup. What innovative marketing strategies would you recommend for these emerging edtech companies who are looking to build a brand with some awareness and capture some market in this competitive space? EdTech today has become quite competitive, right? So, what are your inputs on this?
Yeah, like basically suggesting some strategies. That is something I have already referenced, right? Like I have suggested micro influencer strategies to scale your business. That is something very new to our ecosystem and something we should try because we have a greater potential. There is no other country, or there are no great other countries which have 50 crore people using smartphones, right? So
Yeah.
we should make use of that. That is something I would like to say. So apart from that, when talking about competition, actually Indian education industry or Indian edtech industry is a very big industry, and there are pieces of cakes where everyone can consume. And we were actually a startup. When we started, we were not aware of the competitors we have, because I was basically a teacher. I used to teach mathematics to students who were preparing for JE. So basically, during my classes, I knew what impact does these kids have when we have a one-on-one session with them. Means apart from all the lectures and all the sessions we have, the personalized classes had a greater impact. So that's how we started this platform along with some of my friends. So we were focusing on the problems and we were focusing on the solutions we have. Till date, we were focusing on the same thing. So we were not aware of the competitors, we were not aware of the similar platforms, so we were not aware of any kind of competitive landscape in the current system. All came to our story at a very late stage. At a very late stage means at a very near days, because we started this in 2021. Now it's 2024. It's almost just 3 years. But competition have now been a topic in between us. We were always focusing on, as I said, we were focusing on customer satisfaction. We were focusing on our numbers. So if we are rightly focusing on what we do, and if we believe our service is creating some impact in the society, we of course will win the competition. That's what I feel like.
Understood. So typically you're saying for you, what was innovative in marketing was micro-influencer marketing strategy.
Yeah, it's basically, if someone is investing like 400 crore or 500 crore for a single marketing campaign in the edtech industry, there is no way to overcome that, right? That can be overcome by spending more than that, maybe by spending 500 crore or by spending 1000 crore. And there are platforms in India where they have a revenue of 2500 crore and a marketing expense of 3000 crore, which can be overcome by spending 4,000 crore only. So there is no point in competing of having such branding awareness or competing in the landscape of brand awareness. We should compete with the quality of our service or the quality of the service that competitors provide.
Got it. Good. Glad that you.
The micro influencers who are the customers will talk about our brand and our service. But that's what I believe.
Understood. So create your own niche typically is ultimately having more customer satisfaction is where
Exactly.
you create. Perfect. One of the things that we have also seen recently is omnichannel engagement is crucial for reaching out to the students or prospects or leads across using various platforms today, right? I see a nod from Raj because Raj and I have worked on this in the past year in creating these platforms. So, Ramesh, what best practices do you suggest for tech companies to create a cohesive experience for students across different touch points?
Yeah, like again, I know Raj is the right person to answer to that question, but I will just reference what things have worked for me. So
Yeah.
when building Interval, we have always tried to unify our user profiles. That's one thing we have always focused, to maintain a centralized user profile that captures preferences, learning history, learning pathway, and all the interactions across all channels. This ensures like a personalized experience regardless of the platform they use. Of course, one-on-one interaction is personalized. We always ensure that personalization should always be justifiable in every manner through communications, through channels we use. So we enable synchronization of data across all the webs, mobile applications, social media, and all the platforms used. Like for example, we actually use telephony and then Galabox along with LeadSquared, right? So having these kind of omni-channels for communications actually increases the net promoter score as well, because parents have a greater convenience. But one thing which we cared, but one thing which we suffered was about the branding or the messaging or the branding created by the messages through different omni-channels should be optimized. So ensure that branding elements or tone of voice or the different platforms might be used by different persons. So the message remaining consistent across all channels are very important. So this builds a trust and reinforces that brand identity. And of course, in our platform, we give a greater focus on feedback mechanism as well. We provide easy channels for students and both students and parents to give feedback and suggestions across all touch points. So acting on this feedback promptly to enhance the user experience very continuously have played a very pivotal role in increasing our customer satisfaction, thus giving us an extra advantage of having free micro influencer partnerships through converting our customers into micro influencers. And to end this question, I actually was not intending. I do not have an intention to say this point before, but I would like to tell it now because this is a very unpopular perspective. And as someone said, I was not knowing her name. She was mentioning that I am a lawyer, and that actually defines that I'm not a tech person, right? I'm not a very tech person. But what I felt is that at Interval, we still offer a point of contact, allowing customers to interact directly in person if necessary. So this approach has proven very crucial in boosting our net promoter score. So in India, what I really understood is that talking about the K-12 market, parents are willing to pay if the student is having 10 to 50% increase in marks, because we have a lot of non-academic courses and academic courses as well. But the courses which always backs us are always academic courses, right? So in India, parents and students often have significant concerns about their studies and future as prospects. This actually leads to greater anxiety, which again leads to impatience. So there are moments where parents actually does not have enough patience to talk with a chatbot or spend time in sending mails. But so giving them a human touch in POC has given us a greater advantage. So therefore, I strongly advocate for maintaining such facilities in Indian-focused EdTech ventures to enhance customer convenience and satisfaction. So that is another channel which we currently is focusing to develop through technology to give them a human touch while they are in need of some sort of maybe addressing to their grievances mostly, but any sort of help. So it is very important to have omni-channels when doing business in India, but because we have got a very versatile set of customers in India.
Very valuable and interesting inputs, Ramesh. Thank you so much for sharing them. I think customer feedback, acting on them, and India-specific, way of engaging with your prospects seems very interesting point. Saikat, coming to you, I think as KIMO continues to grow, how have you integrated marketing automation to streamline your marketing processes and scale your efforts effectively? And what are the benefits that you've observed in terms of student engagement and conversion rates by doing so?
So the very first thing that comes into the picture, if I talk about marketing automations and the tools that we work with, the very first thing that comes down to my mind is that the cost bit of it, because once you're running a startup, there's a lot of constraints here and there when it comes down to having a good set of workforce. And in today's time, we all must have seen that there's a lot of early attrition that we see specifically in terms of sales engines, because there's a lot of hiring and firing and rehiring that goes on. So there have been very few, one, two tools which I would like to recommend, and it had actually, played a very pivotal role in not only KIMO but few other organizations that have, helped in the past. So there are a few LinkedIn automation tools wherein, you can actually go ahead and sequence a set of emailers or the set of messages that you send across to a respective prospect. You can actually pull them out. So for example, if I want to send, let's say, pick up 100 CEOs who are based out of Netherlands and want to, let's say, send them some message of our services. So we have a particular tools to actually go ahead and do that. And what we have seen, it doesn't do wonders in the Indian market, because as Ramesh said, that Indians, they do need some human interference or human touch. But then if I talk about market like, let's say, Europe or might be UK, US to some extent. So they, if they find what you're sending them is relevant, they tend to buy through such automated tools only, right? Coming back to KIMO, so we work a lot with college goers as well as people who are looking forward, let's say for jobs and all of that. So I think that even from investor point of view as well, if you actually sit for any of the investor talk, or maybe if you speak to any of the investors that are there on board, specifically want to go ahead and put in some let's say efforts in edtechs, and the very first thing that they ask you is, what is your engagement like? Right? So, and of course, that has a lot to do with your, then again, coming down to NPS and everything. But then engagement do increases a lot if you actually, for example, I'm a student in, again, the personalization bit comes in, right? And I have completed all my chapters, which are, let's say, on data science, but then I didn't actually go ahead and do much about machine learning. So if you actually get, let's say, push notification or an automated message, which says that that this is where you are struck and you have to work more here, then it automatically gives that person a respective kick, because that doesn't happen in a college, right? A teacher comes, the teachers, they are done, right? So there doesn't pick up a kid and tell them that it's humanly not possible to actually go ahead and might be give them any kind of insight which is personalized to that level. But as again, connecting to the question that you asked from previously, so if you actually have a set of data which is relevant and which is as per a particular profile, then it gets easy to kind of engage that customer in a better manner, and it all has that automated bit of it comes in, because humanly it's not possible. Like for example, I'll take LeadSquared's example as well. I'm using LeadSquared since 2015, if I'm not very wrong, when I was myself an associate, and when I used to do all those customer engagement myself. So in LeadSquared, we used to see what kind of how much content a person is seeing, how many emails they have opened, and let's say, did they click on something which is like enroll now or something of that sort. So before you are connecting to one of your prospects, you actually have a complete movie in front of you that what this person had been doing. Right, and then LeadSquared used to give scores as well, that this person is, let's say, a 500 out of 600. So we knew that okay, this person is more warm, and we should it's kind of tend to go ahead and convert. The reason of conversion is better. Then there are a few other things also that helps, like once you get to know that what kind of phones do they use and all of that. So, that really helps. And of course, in terms of emailers and everything that you shoot automated emails, you do A and B testing in and around it, right? You get to know that okay, this is the set of message or the communication that we are passing on is working more than this. In terms of customer onboarding also, it helps, right? Because previously the approach was, once somebody is on board, you actually give them a mentor, you call them and do all of that, right? If you actually send them a WhatsApp message versus an email, but I feel WhatsApp works better in today's time. WhatsApp automated WhatsApp message with all the instructions, how they can go ahead and use the platform. I think this kind of automation actually increases the engagement to quite an extent, and it helps you to understand your customer better as well, even if there is some human interferences that is coming in.
Interesting. Yeah, I think evolving lead scores and then the customer 360 that you spoke about, eventually, be it a platform like LeadSquared or any marketing tool for that sake, plays a very pivotal role. Now we spoke a lot about India as a geography or a market, and the sentiment in India. Saikat, your experience in scaling global edtech platforms, what marketing channels have proven to be the most effective for you in reaching diverse audiences? And how do you adopt these strategies across different regions? Because each region has its own aura of the target audience.
So my particular markets in the past, a decade, I feel the markets that I've been playing around with is India, specifically, India along with Africa, US, UK, and Europe, particularly Netherlands. So Indian sentiment is completely different, right? If you actually show Indians a webinar, people just doesn't go to, they just doesn't buy right after the webinar, that's for sure. You need some kind of personalization that should come. We're talking a lot of personalization, but yeah, Indians do need that personalization or that human touch that comes in. But if I talk about market like a US, right? So if they see a webinar, even if it is pre-recorded, right, and if they find what is being taught or told is relevant, they tend to buy right after the webinar or maybe the pre-shot webinar, right? And then if I talk about, let's say, let's say a Dutch entity, or maybe people who are specifically from Netherlands. So what I've seen there is that people are very, very, very concerned about sharing their data, right? So if you actually go ahead and drop them an email which states, let's say, we are this, the first thing that they come up with that, where did you get my email from, right? So a marketing strategy, if I talk about UK, US, webinars does pretty well, right? There the CPL is also something which is kind of in place. And apart from that, the turn-up ratio is also something which is quite decent, right? But if I talk about the Indian market, it doesn't really work. I don't see that working like, it's not doing a great job, but we see people doing it, and there's a lot of ifs and buts, in around it. So UK, US, of course, webinars, right? Because if they're giving you a time that I'll attend it at this point of time, they do. But Indians are not that punctual at this point of time. And then the second thing is, Indians are very scared of saying no. So they'll, they'll not pick up call, or they just do it for the fluke or for going ahead and just registering. So UK, US, that works. If we talk about, Dutchies or maybe a market like Netherlands, they are very formal and they're very straightforward, right? So if you actually identify the right set of customer who you feel that yes is right for me, and if you're sending in the right set of messages by an email, you can use MailChimp. There are multiple, it's a platform who does it. So it works pretty well if you're sending something which is very relevant for them, right? If it's not relevant, they doesn't tend to buy. I think with one of my ex-employers, we had been having a conversion rate of somewhere near to 20%. So if I'm sending an email to 100 people, then out of that 20 were buying, right? Because of course it was a government funded thing and all of that is there. But then, the conversion was pretty decent. But in India, I think it would loiter around somewhere around 0.5 to 1%. 1% is superb in terms of emails. In India, I think that, offline and online, both strategies work decently well. But as Ramesh said that, we have giants who are spending like, billions in going ahead and getting the marketing bit done, having superstars coming in, shooting some fancy videos with some music in the background. But then I think at this point of time, there should be offline, for us, if I talk about KIMO specifically, then we focus a lot on campus ambassadors, just like, micro-influencers that Ramesh spoke about. So we actually want our customers to actually go ahead and, brand what KIMO is. And of course, they get, let's say, their part of incentive for the same, right? So different markets has different sentiment, and the customer, it's north and south, right? Because I feel India is a market where selling is the toughest, right? Because the demand is, people tend to kind of go ahead and expect a lot, and they are never concerned about what they're getting out of the money that they are, giving, but they're more concerned about what value it is creating or what, results that it brings in. So yeah, pretty much, I think I've answered your question.
Yeah, interesting point. So the way I call it is India is more engagement on emotional terms, right? There is a lot of we keep on speaking about personalized learning, so that brings in a lot of emotional factor in selling in India versus more practical selling outside India, especially in the US and Europe. So thanks a lot, Saikat. Raj, we are speaking a lot about personalized learning, and a lot is also being spoken around AI. How do you think AI is revolutionizing personalized learning today? What are the key considerations EdTech companies should keep in mind when they're adopting to AI, to create these personalized learning experiences, especially in the regional markets, and how this AI adoption can benefit the students in the end, or maybe some internal operations for that sake?
So I think when it comes to any edtech, of course, when you're small, you can always use any technology. It could be manual processes as well. But when you try to scale, AI can certainly help you. I mean, you're looking at, let's say today, if you have 10,000 students versus 100,000 students, you certainly need some system which can ensure that you're able to, get the results for your customers, or get the right product or learnings for the customer. So if I look at key consideration from AI's perspective, one is, of course, the cultural and language sensitivity. What it means is that, for example, when you're looking at AI models, you want to make sure that regional languages are considered. Considering that in our country, if I talk about India, of course, we have so many regional languages, different dialects. So having AI consider those is very, very important. So that, some of the other things like cultural nuances, how to resonate with local, cultures or languages. That's one. Other than that, also customizing the content for regional contexts, which improves the relevance and engagement in the students. Other than those, I think data availability and quality is another part where AI can effectively personalize the learning, can ensure that the student is able to follow everything what has been taught. The high quality data on student behavior is also important because it helps in identifying how they're performing, what are the things which can be improved. Other than those, I think when it comes to adoption part, especially for students, personalized learning, by adapting to the individual strengths and weaknesses, could ensure that we are able to target the right areas. Real-time feedback is another one which could be helpful. As far as trainers is concerned, I think AI can help the trainers identifying what the students is really struggling with, or what the students is able to understand or not able to understand. Other than that, streamlining the grading part, assessment parts, that's another. Other than those, I think as far as internal operations are concerned, AI can certainly improve the internal operations by automating some of the administrative tasks, so that things are done automatically rather than somebody spending time on those. Content management delivery could be another part. Tracking student performance, how is the student performing? The analytics about it could be also done. These are some of the things which can be done as far as the AI adoption is concerned.
Makes sense. So lots still to be explored, around AI. Saikat, if I could ask you, have you encountered any challenges in scaling these AI solutions globally, especially in a diverse market like India?
So if I talk about the Indian market, it's a very sensitive market, and I feel the rules and the compliance issues that comes in, right? It gets a little difficult in India to kind of scale it. I'll give you a very, I think, a common example of Meta going ahead and opening up their own respective AI bit of it, which is there across. The beta version is all around WhatsApp and Messenger, I feel. So I think that most of the companies, they need to open up their data center in India to actually go ahead and do all of these. So that's one part. We have very obsolete kind of set of rules in jurisdiction. I understand that pretty well because we are headquartered at Amsterdam and then we are operating from India. So the taxes and everything, and a lot of compliance issues comes in. The second thing is the acceptance bit of it. Why do I say it? Is because let's say if we just go back to 2015 or maybe a 14. So convincing people to actually go ahead and make their kid sit with an open internet connection with a tablet in their hand was very difficult. But right now it's a new normal. So for me, back in 2014 or 15, the challenge was to sell internet and a tablet to let's say a parent rather than selling EdTech to that respective person, right? And then in 18, 19, it was selling, different companies and, kind of pitching their KPIs and all of that. But right now the issue is we work a lot with colleges, engineering colleges at this point of time, right? So first of all, whenever we say something which is AI relevant, so the professors and people feel that, they are going to lose their job, right? common kind of mindset that people has that, if this comes in, then they are trying to prove that we are not good enough, right? And they have such tools coming in. So that acceptance and, adhering to the obsolete ways of learning is something which works as a hindrance, right? And the third thing is, I feel, I think we all can connect there, that the prompt engineering or the prompt training is also something which is, a little difficult at this point of time, because people are not trained enough or they're not equipped enough to go ahead and put in the right set of prompt that is required. For example, with KIMO, we have, ways through which people can go ahead and, take in mock interviews via AI. They can build their resume via AI and all of that. Yeah. But then actually we had to create multiple tutorials to tell them that how exactly to go ahead and use it, right? But I think that's very, seasonal. And once you actually delve a little deep with this bit of it, people will kind of adhere to it in a more better manner and will be accepting it the way it is. So yeah.
Makes sense. Very valuable inputs. Raj, a lot has been spoken about AI, the use cases, the adoption. Some people also raise a lot of concerns around security, data privacy. What do you think could be the strategies to implement to address these concerns around AI-driven initiatives which can secure and be compliant with the regulations that we have around us?
In any technology, there would be pros and cons. I mean, in AI, there are multiple things which we're concerned about, and one of them is, of course, security, data security.
Yeah.
How do we ensure that the data which we're putting into AI is secure enough, and it's not going to be, it's not going to go into the hands of an attacker or maybe a hacker. So the first thing which is important for us is that when we are talking about data going into AI, one is the data, whether it's in rest or in transit, needs to be encrypted so that it's not in a readable format. So tomorrow, if your AI model or a system gets hacked, the hacker is not able to read that data. The second part, which is also important, is the anonymization of the data. Now, for example, let's say if someone is still able to break the, whatever encryption you built, but if you've anonymized the data, which means that that only the person who's done this or the company who's done this knows the relation. Like, let's say, what is X in our system, what it relates to. In this case, if you've anonymized the data, you've ensured that the impact is you've de-risked yourself. So I think that's another part which is very, very critical when you're looking at using AI, where data is transferring from one system to another system. So one, of course, encrypt the data in transit or in store. And the second is anonymizing the data. That's the second part. The third, I would say, the second part is on the compliance with regards to different data protections. Now, if I talk about our own organization, we have students coming in from different continents. So we're subjected to pretty much every data compliance which is available on this earth, whether it's GDPR, whether it's PDPA, DPDPI. I think it's important for us to ensure that the relevant data protection laws are followed and the data is managed as per the expectations or as per the compliance standards. So, for example, if the company says, hey, you need to make sure that your data is only kept till the time you need it, or you must anonymize, you build privacy by design and all those things, it's important to consider these kind of features, functionalities in your AI models as well, so that you're protecting the data from any attack and you're being compliant to any regulations as well. I think other than that, transparency and consent is also important, where it also ensures that people understand, even if it's AI, which is managing your information or your data, which is collected as a part of the process of offering the product. In our case, let's say it's a program. People should be clear, or the students should be clear. How are we collecting? Why are we collecting? How are we going to process? How are we going to do decision making using this information? As long as this is very, very clear, and we have taken all the consents from the students or the customers who are coming onto our platforms, it should be fine. So AI needs to ensure that it's very, very clear to people. How are we, whether it's protecting, whether it's processing the information, and ensuring that the consent statements or consents are taken in a very transparent or in a very clear way. I think the other part could be the regular audits, the security audits, and some sort of AI governance as well. So ensuring that whatever models we're using within our environment, there's some sort of audits which are done to assess how the AI is really doing, whether these models are not having any kind of a biasness. Because that would be another thing which could create we may not realize. Because in the end, it's the human who's building it. It's important for us to ensure that we're auditing our systems on a regular basis and having some sort of governance as well. Now, this could be in the form of a governance council where people are really looking at what we're building, how transparent the system is there any concern which is coming in from the users. So in this case, could be the internal stakeholders who are actually building and deploying it, or it could be the students in our case who are using the technology and flagging that, hey, this is concerning to us, or maybe the system is not behaving the way it is. So I think these are some of the things which are very, very important in ensuring that while we use AI, but then it is protecting our information. It's not going in a way where it's maybe a biasness creeps into the system, or if someone let's say somehow hacks the systems, then at least our information, our students' information is protected. It's encrypted or anonymized. I think these are some of the things. I mean, there could be multiple other things, but I think these are the important parts which are required in our AI models.
So interesting, absolutely makes a lot of sense, and I'm sure as we keep on adopting and using how AI evolves, all of us will eventually get adopted to it. So transparency and making policies or adhering to certain policies which we make ourselves should eventually help us in keeping compliance at check. So interesting thoughts. Thank you so much, everyone. Shivani, over to you. I'm sure the audience would have a lot of questions on the points that we have discussed. Would you want to take them up?
Yes. Hi. So I'll get right started with the questions. Vinita has a question. It's also on the chat tab if anybody wants to see it. So Vinita says, how do you measure the success of your EdTech products or services? Do you measure it by number of conversions, customer satisfaction, ROI, or anything else that probably tells you, yes, this is working for us? It's open to everyone.
I'll get it started. So to Vinita particularly, I would like to say that number of conversions, customer satisfaction, ROI, CAC to LTV, all these can be used to evaluate your pace of growth or evaluate your scaling numbers or scaling measures. But to be precisely answering to your question, you were asking about the success of the product. So success of the product is always defined by the customer feedback. So you should have matrices or KPIs which evaluate your each and every products or services on the basis of the feedback you receive from customers. That's what I personally believe is the right way to do things.
I think I just want to add to this that being in EdTech, for any student who's coming to us, our success is going to be the outcome they're getting from our product. So, for example, let's say if somebody has an intent to go to a different domain or a stream, and they're learning that stream, then for us the success would be if the person gets a job or starts something on its own in that stream. That's going to be the success. That's how we would define it. I mean, of course, from a business perspective, there could be different matrices which we could always use. Whether it's how much revenue did we generate, it could be what was our NPS score and all that. But I think my personal thought would be that the success, for us, would be measured by the outcome our students are getting.
Absolutely, I feel the same. It's about what you're committing. Are you able to deliver that, and are you filling in the void that bridge the gap that you have told that you can, right? So that plays a pivotal role, and of course, the conversion, everything that adds on to that. But then the end goal is to make sure that your customers are happy and they get what you have promised them.
Okay. I also believe she works in the African market. Do you all have any inputs there? Anyone with experience working that side?
Yes. So I've been working with employers. They are based out of Africa, and they're doing pretty well there. They're very top notch at Deloitte and all of that, working with their clients. So Africa was, a great market 20 years back. Like it pulled in a lot of investors, at that point of time. But then in today's point of time, it's a very price sensitive market, right? And then there's a lot of trust issue that comes in at that point of time. So just might be, it might sound a little stupid as well, but then the sauce that you need in the very beginning is to actually have 10 set of good students who have the testimonials ready that I am from Africa. This company came in and they have helped me to, let's say, go ahead and let's say they have helped me to get a job, might be more job ready, be more interview ready, whatsoever it is. But then I think those initial 10, 15 testimonials always help if you're looking forward to, barge into a new market. And the third thing is their banking systems are not really very strong, right? So that's a small piece of extra advice. So please make sure that you have a really good fintech partner or might be a good payment gateway to make sure that you delve into the market better. Yes, Sam.
Okay.
Very good.
The next question, I think.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, the next question is for Ramees. This was
Yes,
earlier,
I
Ramees,
get
when you
it.
were talking about.
Yeah, the question by
Yeah,
Pradeep
yeah. Could you-
Marwaha, right?
Yes.
Yeah, actually there are two questions. I will answer both of it both of it at the same time. Yeah, they were asking about how valuations could get us more geographies. Yes, actually, I will state it with an example. Consider WhatsApp, right? WhatsApp have more than 500 million users in India. So what do you think is the marketing cost or the customer acquisition cost of Meta or WhatsApp in India? It's literally very nil. So how did that happen? We find something very interesting, or we find something very impactful, or maybe something of greater convenience and greater value addition. What the next step is to introduce the same thing to our friends and family, or to our relatives, or to any other stakeholders whom we would like to share it with. So that's how WhatsApp has scaled our Indian ecosystem. Consider ourselves. How do we came to know about WhatsApp? Some of our friends have shared it with us, right? So that's how we convert our stakeholders or our customers as the marketers. So that's how 50 crores smartphone users can be used for the betterment of our own platform. And to explore among the geographies, I will tell you with one use case about how we started our operations in UAE. Actually, there are Indians in almost all the countries. Basically, that's a greater gift we have. And to be frank, I am from Kerala, and there are Keralites, 100 plus Keralites living in 120 plus countries, and there are Keralites in 188 countries in all over the globe. So whatever marketing activities we do here, we get a spillover from other geographies as well, or maybe we get referrals from other countries. So in the year we started in 2021 itself, we got few customers from Dubai. Actually, we were focusing on higher standards, means higher classes like 8, 9, 10. But we got more number of students getting enrolled in KG sessions, primarily kids aged between 2.5 to 6 years from UAE. So the pain point of the parents in UAE was it was very hard for them to find schools for their young kids in a very near place. They couldn't find it or they couldn't afford it. So that was a greater pain point. So parents started to homeschool kids, but the true fact was that parents didn't know how to homeschool. So it's a greater pain point, right? So once we attend or we try to solve this pain point of few customers, they can easily find other customers who have the same pain point. So what they really do is they do refer it in their own circles. So literally we were pushed or we were compelled to start our operations in UAE due to the greater impact we were creating among the parents or among the students in UAE. So that's how our well-wishers could get us more geographies or take us around the globe. Similar things happened in New Zealand, then UK, US market as well. So we have a lot of competitors in one-on-one tutoring in US market, but the cost of per hour classes when calculated were typically very low when comparing to big players like GoStudent and Vedanta and all, which actually give us a greater advantage of market penetration in some of the international market. But again, we were marketed by our own well-wishers, which again is our own customers. So that's how they can take it into a different level.
Okay. Thank you, Ramesh. The next question is from Swasti, who says, is it a wise strategy to invest as a private player into skilling of industrial workforce, where a lot of effort is being made by the government in providing free courses and study material? Who wants to go first? No?
Okay, then I will go it. Again, when talking about Indian political situation, it is very versatile and it is very vulnerable and it is very thrilling as well. Someone who is very into politics, right? But we have state governments, we have central governments, and the greatest thing is that these things keep on changing. So, in the current political setting of India or any democratic country, it's hard for any governments to come up with a program with a greater vision and fully execute it, right? For the same reason, most of the content and most of the learning pedagogy or most of the learning styles in most of the states keep on changing in different times, particularly or maybe they're directly proportional to the values those governments have, right? So most of the programs are incomplete due to several reasons by government in skilling, whether it's skilling industrial workforce or skilling the youth. For the same reason, we have a lot of data speaking or coming into news in the last few days or in the last few months talking about the unskilled portion of our youth, right? So it's very hard for them to fulfill this, but it's very easy for, even I personally believe YouTube have done a greater job than Indian government. No offense to any particular governments, but I do personally believe YouTube plays a vital role in upskilling the industrial workforce or maybe the youth rather than any governments, whether any state governments or any central governments. YouTube is playing a vital role. So I personally believe that still startups can do a lot more in skilling the industrial workforce than any government do. And yeah, Prince Raj, I got your question. Partnering with government is actually a greater solutions, but only very few government has a easy facility to do such kind of. Even we do have some B2G collaborations, but still there are some governments, some state governments in India who would take 4 to 5 years to settle your bills. And how is gonna that convenient for any startups? Maybe it is very convenient for startups with a lot of investments or a lot of working capital, but for small players it is not possible to have such a greater maturity period for bills, right? Or for such a big period to convert it into real money. So it's very difficult to select the better government to be partnered with. But we also do partner with some of the state governments, and there are some good governments who simplifies the whole procedures for startups, and there are facilities by Startup India to develop marketplaces for startups to collaborate with governments as well. All such initiatives have been doing a tremendous job to maybe reach our platform or take our platform to different levels, but still there are a lot of issues which comes with democracy. So
can I just make a note, a comment on this one?
Yeah.
So I just want to make a quick comment on that. Swasti, for your question, I think it depends upon what are you trying to do. Like, for example, when you're trying to invest in scaling of industrial workforce, what's the objective you have? Partnership is probably the best option because it could help you in some ways to make a business out of it. We at upGrad has we have a partnership with one of the government organization, NSDC, and we're offering courses to people. I think you got to look at what is the trade-off you're trying to make here, and what's your own business, and then make a choice whether you want to focus on partnering with the government, let me go all alone. But it's going to primarily depend on what are you trying to achieve.
Yeah, I would like to add one more point when Raj was talking about collaborations, right? Like when talking about content, it's very hard for governments to edit their contents or come up with the latest technologies and all. And there is one term called Tughlaq decisions. I don't know whether you are aware of that. There are a lot of Tughlaq decisions among government as well right now. Like there is a condition for UGC that for any university to get deemed to be an university or to come up with the university status, they need a 5 acre of land. And why on the earth they believe that someone to consume a content or someone to learn a new skill, it needs to be 5 acres in land and they need to wander around there, right? There is no point in such kind of stuff and all. And there are different universities like Kerala Digital University, which actually works above a 20,000 square feet facility, just a 20,000 square feet facility above a market, right? Like above a supermarket. That's how things works nowadays. And there are like a lot of management courses under UGC, under different universities in India, still following a lot of very traditional methods of human resource management and finance and all. And still it is a very bad situation that students getting graduated from courses like BCom and all are not aware of Zoho books. So what is the purpose of having such contents, right? So yeah, again, partnering with governments is a better option, but the intention of the government is something we should take care of.
Yeah, so I think this question the answer might go on for the half an hour. So I'm going to switch track. It is one of those, one of those questions where you can actually go on and on. So last but not the least, I know time is of the essence. One of the questions that had come in earlier, what are the best AI and omni-channel tools that one can use for rapid growth? Would strategic partners with complementary enterprises be one of the best ways forward? So I think if each of you could answer that, if omni-channel tools or any basically tools that have helped you with your marketing. I would actually have so many tools ready. I mean,
I think none of us.
Raj, I'd let you go first.
But I think I could tell you about what we have done with LeadSquared. So probably that could be one. Or maybe there are a lot of other tools, especially for marketing, whether it's about creating images, videos for marketing purposes. And I'm not going to name any of those because you can just Google and find out those tools. But as far as LeadSquared is concerned, our journey, we've tried multiple things. And if I look at the current thing which we're trying right now to automate some of the stuff for us, which is about, one is of course omni-channel experience for our customers, and second is about ensuring that we have different ways to reach out to the customer. I mean, I'll give you a quick idea about what we do. So we when we call our customers, there are about 4 million phone calls which are made in a month's time, and this was one of the problem statements which we identified. What we found is that about 20% people are answering those calls, but then about 80% are not really answering those calls, which means you're losing you're keeping a lot of those leads on the table and nothing is happening about those. So we partnered with your teams, and we figured out that one of the ways for us could be that if we could use, we can bring in WhatsApp for Business as a part of this omni-channel experience for the customers, then we can ensure that there's an automation via which we can send out certain template-based messages depending on what has happened, whether the customers or the lead has responded to the phone call or not. If they respond, great, then we send out some information about this, about the program. But if they didn't, then at least we give them those options that, hey, you could reach out at this number or at this time, or book a calendar with us. That is something which we've done, and it's working very well. I mean, it's still in the initial phases because it's a new thing which we're doing. But other than those, there are multiple other tools. I mean, whether it's GPT or whether you want to use like if you want to build AI models, Llama, or go to Bedrock. Again, I'm not endorsing any tools. I mean, of course, people can use their own wisdom to figure out which ones is going to work, because you've got to make trade-offs. I mean, every tool is going to come at a cost, and of course, any AI model which you're trying to build, it will need some time. It will need efforts, and it would need, of course, a lot of investments as well. So, of course, people can make their trade-offs depending upon what are their needs. I'm not too sure if that's the exact answer which you were expecting, but I just thought of sharing what we've experienced.
No, I think makes a lot of sense in terms of what you spoke, Raj. So omnichannel today is typically, engaging with the prospects or the leads or the universe, that you have for your respective businesses, and of course, LeadSquared as a platform enables that for almost all our customers, right? So what we have seen this evolving over a period of time is a lot of talk time being spent with the prospects and leads, and that getting now evolved into self-enabled engagement for the prospects. The most easiest mode of communication is, of course, WhatsApp, as you said. It could be through a simple bot also on WhatsApp, for example, and it could be something, a bot that we usually see on websites. It could be, on Meta, various social media websites that you have. It could be on Google. So, a single platform which enables you to kind of, add up everything into a single platform, enables you to capture more. Ramesh did speak a lot about creating these singular platform being more prospect or client specific. Saikat mentioned about regional specific, how marketing initiatives you can run, and you have given various examples, Raj, yourself. So I feel that was pretty apt in terms of what omnichannel platforms or tools you can use. There are various service providers, right? Without naming them, of course, you Google it and you'll get tons of them today. So I think it should be an easier answer for the audience. Awesome. I think time's up. Very valuable insights and inputs. I would really thank all of you, including the audience, to be a part of this wonderful webinar. If there are more questions, feel free to reach out to us, write to us. We'll connect your answer to your questions. Thanks for spending this time with us. Really appreciate this. All the best. Thank you.
Thanks for having us. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.